Hello, welcome back to the Funk Treatise 5th edition, uh, and the readings of. Today we have Jeffrey Anderson. He's going to be reading pages 211 through 220. And so, without further ado, let us begin. Let me turn this up a little bit right there.
I'm Jeffrey Anderson, and I will be reading pages 211 to 220. Alicia Whitmire. It's an interesting premise. What makes you say I'm special? How does funk play into it? Sean Penalber. 1. You are special, because as I said above, I have just said it to be, and now here a second time. 2. You are special because you exist. I know you exist. Your parents know you exist. Everyone reading this now knows you to exist, and that is special. 3. You are special because you are a part of me and us. You were an influence in my gathering of information on how the funk works, and your interest proves my theory to be continuously in effect and expanding, as it now is through you, reader. 4. You create and are creative, and that is special. 5. Now that we know that you are special, your influence upon the funk will continue to grow and expand in an exponential amount until it loops back within itself and starts again. You will always in time be you, and given enough time you will become you again in every way and form. Isn't that special? 6. You are special. Do you need further proof? Or does that all make sense and now prove you to be more special than you previously thought yourself to be? Alicia Whitmire. Makes sense. I'll keep reading your posts.
All right, just to start off, Kevin had read this page as well in the last video. Uh, and just as I said in that last video, and again now, uh, when I'm saying special, like you are special, because you are. You watching this, reading this, whoever you are, you're special. I don't mean this um, in the sense to feed your ego. I'm not here saying like, oh, you're special, great job, good job for being special, to give you this good feeling. What I mean is in like the epistemic sense of ontology, like you are literally special just because you exist. Your existence has so much immaculate impact on everything and influence on all of this, on life, the universe, everything. And you may feel insignificant because the entire funk and universe is almost infinitely large, to our understanding, probably even beyond infinite. Who knows? Um, but the fact that you are even part of that is extremely special. And I know some people would argue with that and in the nihilistic viewpoint and say like, no, it's we're insignificant. It's all fruitless and means nothing. But even if it was fruitless and meant nothing, it's still a little bit special. The fact that out of all of this in time and history, here you are, here we are, uh, and that's special. So it's more of an existential thing than it is an ego boost. Now, yes, people do use it as an ego boost, uh, and that can be abused as well. Just like we talked about in the last video, if every single day you tell someone they're special and you throw them a celebration kind of all the time, when they're outside, when they leave this nest of specialness out into the real world, it's going to hit them pretty hard. It's going to be a big old punch or a kick or maybe even worse. And so you got to watch that boundary and that line. And that's why, again, I don't mean it in this ego feeding way. But you are special. Thank you for being here.
Tuesday, December 10th, 2019 continued. I am now, by request, emailing this dissertation to Meredith Nudo. Hello, Meredith. Hope you enjoyed this. Tuesday, December 10th, 2019 continued. Kindle. Sean, I can't even read what you're saying. Everything you're posting is a run-on sentence. You're posting at wildly late hours of the night. I really encourage you to reach out to friends. and seek help if you need it. I have BP too, and know that mania can present in a lot of different forms. I do care about you, and I'm all here for your self-discovery. A lot of people are worried for you. Please take care of yourself. Sean Penal.
And so we've already been here before. We have seen this forum earlier in the treatise, but this is where it unfolded in real time. I kind of wanted to showcase both the entire thing to give you kind of a basic understanding of what you're about to get into, but then I also wanted to keep it in real time so that now that you're readdressing it, you can judge it in another way. Kind of like as if you were reading the book again, but you're still reading the same document. And so it is up to you to make your own opinion on whether you've felt that I was being manic at this time. I tried to showcase all the information of why someone might think so, and then present my argument on why I don't believe so. And we'll talk. I'll share a little few more quotes because, like, one thing, I guess I'll share them now. Um, oh, hopefully that is still recording. These came up in the ChatGPT summary yesterday, and I thought they were great arguments in my defense. But the quotes that it says is, "This isn't about mania versus clarity. It's about riding the edge of deep cognition, where society's definitions falter and where the funk lives." Another one is Sean's openness about how his passion may be perceived as mania is itself an evolved awareness. I'm not claiming immunity, I'm claiming responsibility. And then the last one, that's at least in this page, if in my defense, I think pages 201 through 210, especially the TLDR summary, are a good argument in my defense, but I'm not going to go too much into that because we have all the videos that were before this as well. But then the last quote here is, even if it means I'll be called crazy or manic, I'm still going to post these things. And like all Funkonauts before him, or all philosophers, all scientists, anyone who has an idea that went against the norm or tradition, I affirm that if this is madness, let it be poetic. Let it be compassionate. Let it be meaningful. And so it's up to you to think whether or not I was manic at the time, or whether I am manic now, or in any state. But even if these things were true or not, rather than dismiss me for that, at least listen to what I have to say and form an opinion about it.
Again, I see you caring. I am letting you know that I am taking care of myself. Yes, I am posting at late hours of the night, but so are those in China. Many people work late hours or are awake when the rest of the world is asleep. I am with friends almost every day, and those friends show and tell me that they currently understand what I am explaining. Again, I understand how this can appear to be manic, and I hope you are eventually able to see that I am functionally fine. I see that a couple of you are worried for me, but I also see those who continue to care about what I'm saying, to then give me a giant hug, shake my hand, or tell me they love me after. Is that easier to read? Your understanding is deeply a part of it. I am learning how to explain all this, and it is indeed going to seem weird. Remember that they sentenced Socrates to death? I am currently being judged and sentenced by the results of my and our study. Definitely taking care if myself, just as you are attempting to do so for me. And if you ever need it, I am also there for you.
And so for people who are just tuning in and everything, if you really want a deeper dive into this, of course, read the previous pages or watch the previous videos. But I still appreciate what Kendall did in reaching out and at least sharing her opinion, you know. Um, but then there's the opposite side of like what I was experiencing that felt kind of like it was being dismissed. It felt like that I wasn't being seen because someone thought that my mental state was off. But really, I was just very passionate about this information, and I wanted to talk about it in open forum with friends and family. Uh, and I think that comments like this kind of made people look at this comment and then be like, "Oh, yep, Sean, I also think that," without even reading what I had to say. They could just look at that and use it as a scapegoat. Because I know some people who did and who admitted that, or not admitted it, but shared that information with me. Um, and so after Kindle said these things, like you're posting run-on sentences, you're posting wildly late hours of the night, as you can see in the very next response, I break my run-on sentences down and I try to shorten them. And I think that that is pretty understandable. Um, but then, even after that, when we scroll down, we'll get there. And I ask Kindle again, I'm like, now that I've explained myself a little more, am I making sense? And she's just like, no. And so, again, that makes me question, and I talk about this again in the last video, the amount of care really being presented. Um, because I was doing all these things. I was taking care of myself. Yes, I was wildly late hours in posting, but that's because my work hours were mostly night, and then I would just stay up the night and sleep during the day, which is normal, I guess. It's non-traditional, but people do it. Um, I don't know. I feel at this point, I'm just saying the same things that I've already kind of discussed on in these points. But again, form your own opinion, make your own thoughts.
Sean Penalver. Jackie, Laura, Paul, Samir, Wayne Penalver, can you, if you are able or wanting, confirm to Kindle that I am arguably healthy and well, and what I have been researching is in a way clear to you as I have communicated with you to understand? Simply below, tell everyone if it makes sense to you or does not and why. Sean Penalver. I understand how it seems crazy, Kendall. I have been researching this information through experience, communication, sociology, philosophy, art, science, religion, etc., and so far my findings are pointing to true until they can be proven otherwise. With deep and extensive research and trial and error, I, your friend, have discovered a next, deeper, paradoxical equation in philosophy, and you are a significant part of it. At this moment and in the past, I, and the history behind us, have been gathering proofs and collections of data, and it is indeed calculable and relative. And yes, that is crazy. In the way you get the feeling of crazy when you're like, how did I not understand that? Crazy. Thanks for the info. It is now up to you and us to learn it or not. That is our experience, but you/we are already influenced by it, and you/we are now influencing me, and I, you, and us, the funk, simultaneously through quantum experience. And your attempts, or not, to understand, or not, this communication forever applies to the data of my research on consciousness, technology, and the influence and realities of being both indirectly and directly.
And so again, here is someone being special. Just by existing, they are sharing their influence on this information. Now they are challenging it in a way, or not exactly challenging it, but you know, basically stating you may have this thing. You may be experiencing mania, right? Um, but just like I say here, uh, whether she continues or not with this information, now it's here in the treatise being used to help us understand how we react to anyone or everyone to kind of presenting information like this on such broad subjects that are contradictory, paradoxical, and everything. When we talk about philosophy or really anything that's kind of outside of traditional norms that like people don't. I don't know. There seems to be this like stigma line in the sand of like when you start talking about life and the universe and everything, uh, there just seems to be this like built-in aversion that people have. They're like, "Oh, I'm not high enough for this conversation," or I'm not drunk enough. But like, you can still have these conversations in day-to-day life. There's nothing stopping you from that. In fact, I find it like quite powerful. But it seems that a lot of people just aren't ready or willing or wanting to dive deeper into life, and there's many reasons for that. Um, which again, I would call the fuego puerta of stepping through something that might be a little difficult to step through and work to the other side. But again, it just showcases the example of the allegory of Plato's cave, uh, and so let us continue. Because again, I'm just kind of repeating myself here.
Sean
But I am trying to, for people who are just now tuning in, trying to also cover those gaps as well.
Penalber. You are questioning what you are observing to be happening, and you are forming an opinion on it, having been influenced by it. You doing just that is helping others to understand in the comparable ways that you are currently questioning, and then relaying to me and us how to better explain it. And over time, I have indeed learned how to explain it better, but not yet perfectly. And it is possible that I, Sean Penalber, may potentially be unable to be alive to witness that distant singularity and expansions of time, space, and information, but this proves that I and we have existed within it, and that whatever the future becomes is an evolution of our influence. So I deeply thank you for your help and care. That is real love.
And again, as we've discussed before, what I mean by that is essentially like all of this that was happening at the time, especially, was just formulating thoughts. It was me getting it out, getting it on paper, so that so that it could be recalled to or referenced to. Yes, not all of it was complete thoughts. Some of it sounded weird or appeared as manic, but I needed to get it out so that I could continue refining it, or look into things, or cut or edit things, um, or expand on thoughts deeper with others. And that's what we're doing here. And so, since we have this information, since it got written down, now you and I are expanding on it together. Um, and anyone can do this. But this is basically how information evolves. Like, look at any book ever written, whether it's science, philosophy, or beyond, fact, fiction, history, all of that. Uh, you got to start somewhere, and then you work on these drafts, and you update these drafts, and then eventually someone else looks at this information, and that sparks something else in them, and then it just gets passed through history, and it transforms into something else entirely. And so this is that stepping stone, and Kindle, with the help of Kindle, and the other people kind of in this, my direct friends and family, uh, it definitely showed me that I needed work, that it wasn't there yet, but I was also seeing more people understanding what I was saying. I was seeing more people resonating and everything, rather than being like, "Oh, are you okay? Maybe you should slow down, take some rest." Because I was fine. My life was very good at the time. I was with people a lot. I was doing improv quite often at the time, um, and I really enjoyed my schedule, and the job that I had. Everything was good. Everything was coming up Millhouse and roses, and now everything is even better. Um, and so again, I deeply do thank you for your help and care. And while I do disagree about the mania, uh, it is again a great example to showcase um, how people treat these conversations and everything, or when you're not quite there yet, um, how that appears. Because again, one of the examples that I use early in the treatise is like when you take a class. Let's say you take a class that you're super passionate about, like let's say you go take a history class and get a history lesson, and you really resonated with it, um, you can't just leave that class and then go teach your own class on it. I mean, you could try, you can attempt, but it might appear like this. It's just not going to be ready yet, right? Unless you're on that level, because that can absolutely be an option as well. Someone could potentially do that, but for a lot of people, you're going to have to practice more. You're going to have to learn more. You're going to have to go through steps before you are ready to be that teacher. And so this was me being a student wanting to discuss more with other students or other peers or people who outside of that, because it's non-scholastic.
Sean Penalber. I have been applying all of this research with the scientific method, and at this point in time, it is becoming more and more correct. Those who get it think it is wonderful information, and they feel the energy it brings. Those who don't, or cannot, or will not, or are struggling to do so, are so far by observation mostly unable to because they are dismissing the information as lunacy, or are overwhelmed by it, so they disregard it. But with patience and understanding, I have even seen people who have done so to closer understand it or argue it until they too are like, makes sense. Or not, but they are still a part of it. It takes communication, influence, experience, belief, etc. After currently 7 years, you are now seeing the resulting documented results of my social study of the past and the patterns within it leading up to now.
And so, like I say here, uh, when I say those who don't or cannot or will not or are struggling to do so are so far in my observation mostly unable to because they're dismissing the information as lunacy. Not just lunacy, but whatever reason they have for them. Because the only people that I saw, I didn't really see anyone dismiss it flat out right. Like, I did have people on both forums, the one on 4chan and here, be like, this is confusing. I'm not really getting it. But that means that they at least attempted in some way. Uh, but I did see a lot more people resonating with it to at least some degree. Yes, the biggest response that I got was, this is confusing. And so again, it told me that it needed work. And so I just continued polishing it until it could be more understood. Um, there was something else that I was going to say. But yeah, the only two people who really had any deep like questioning was Ben and Kendall, who were like, you may be experiencing mania, but in my own defense, I don't think I was. Again, it's just passion, and that's how a lot of other people I've talked to uh, believe that to be. Unless at the other side, like, to put on the tinfoil hat, unless everyone's just lying to me and feeding my ego, but I find that statistically unlikely because that would be a extremely shitty thing to do. Just be like, oh yeah, 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 sure, 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 okay, now go away, but without saying that. Let us continue.
Sean Penalber. Kindle. Am I becoming more understandable to you yet, or do you have another question and input on all of this output? Kindle. No, I'm still concerned for you. Sean. That is absolutely a part of it.
And so I can see where, like, even even if I started making more sense, like, to you yourself, from that first comment that Kendall made to my explanation between that and to this comment here, where I'm like, does that make more sense? And then Kendall just responding, no, I'm still concerned for you. Okay, I appreciate the care and the concern, but I also wish that, like, you had relayed that you had read what I had stated, uh, because it didn't help me on, like, if I was being more clear or not. It just showed me that what you were focused on was an accusation of mania, an alleged. Um, but again, this is just great example of the allegory Plato's gave, and so no harm, no foul.
Sean. I have improv practice. I'll answer more when I'm back from doing what I love with the people I love. Now rest and process these ideas as I am about to go do so as well. Rest and breaks are super important. Sean Penalber links to Boston Peace of Mind on YouTube. Relevant song on the radio after I turned on the car, further following the patterns of coincidence and chance I have been studying.
And I didn't share this the first time around with this, but my car is almost never on the radio. Um, and so for somehow the radio got switched on, and that was the first song that came on during this discussion and all this meditation and everything. And it just felt like a moment of synchronicity, whether it is or not. Maybe, again, it could all just be coincidence, but even coincidence is still a form of significance.
Sean Penalber. You can now discuss the exposure to this theory with MN, Lisa H. Beckman, Jason Rosenberg, Colton Grissett, and Debbie Harding Penalver if they want to. To my knowledge, I could see that each of them on some level of their perspective were understanding what I have been studying. I kindly ask that they share their experiences with interpreting these ideas, but again, they don't have to if they don't want to. Personal choice. But doing so increases further understanding for everyone. Editing the audio to the intro into this theory now. MN. Well, I do understand elements of the funk because of their overlaps with what little I comprehend about John Gribben's writings on quantum physics. But I don't think Kendall's concerns should be dismissed outright either. This isn't something I have a lot of experience with, but I also know it's not a possibility people bring up lightly or frivolously either. You're not crazy, and I won't call your ideas crazy. But I don't think she'd have spoken up if she didn't love and care about your health either. I love and care about your health too. You can be both insightful, thoughtful, and creative with wonderful ideas as well as possibly dealing with mania. Sean Penalber. Exactly.
I'm going to pause there real quick because I think something that I haven't said yet that I should is that, again, I wasn't dismissing these things outright. And I'm about to say that again. I wasn't dismissing Kendall's concerns or Ben's, because when they did reach out, I did question myself a little bit. Like, maybe, maybe I am, because again, I was feeling a lot of passion about this and I really wanted to talk about it. Uh, because it's just, everything was kind of coming together at this moment. Um, and it's just a very exciting thing. Like when you're within a moment of passion and creative like output and stuff, there's a difference between that and mania, But like I did question myself, like, okay, maybe I should, consider this because these people are saying that I'm appearing to do this thing. And so I wasn't dismissing it, but I definitely don't think, even still, that there was any form of mania going on. It was just, again, passion, and me wanting to reach out and connect these ideas and thoughts and theories with other people, because the more that we do that, the more that this information evolves. I can't. Again, ChatGPT had another really good quote the other day in the TLDR talking about that. That like, this isn't just like some. It's not something that one person created, and then it's like, all right, this is what the rules are going to be and everything. This is a live feed of everyone and everything connecting and polishing this information and working together on doing that and expanding it. And again, that's the idea in theory of pairability, of working together, of attempting to even work together. And the more that we attempt to do that, the farther we're going to evolve in certain areas and everything, rather than uh, devolving or deconstructing or um, causing harm or hate to each other and stuff. Like, those things are probably still going to happen. Suffering is still going to be something that uh, unfortunately we have to experience, because sometimes that suffering is testing and sometimes that suffering is just literal suffering. It's not a lot we could do about it. Um, but now I'm losing my train of thought. But I guess that's all I need to be said about that. And so, again, what I was getting at essentially was just I wasn't dismissing the concerns and everything, um, but what I was feeling at the time was like suppressed, kind of. Yeah, because I knew that, like, again, I was concerned that that would be used as a scapegoat again. That like, and and I know people will still do that. Um, and I was given that understanding again when before I started writing this, and when I was understood that I was going to do these things, that people would have these reactions. People would, agree with it. People would disagree with it. You're going to have the entire spectrum of all of this and beyond. And so when it happened, it was like, oh, well, here it is. So now it's on me, the proof of burden, essentially, or the burden of proof. A little bit of both.
I am not dismissing Kindle's concerns either, but I am indeed very excited, though also slightly disappointed about being misinterpreted, on how y'all are reacting because it adds more data on how people respond to it, based upon their current and past knowledge and experiences. March 19th, 2023. And it was/is helpful, but also a bit harmful, as even to this day, I still feel that I lost a few social relationships from these judgments, and that any time I discuss philosophy, that I'll be dismissed as manic or other, and lose further connections with more friends and family. I am passionate about it, but it is not the only thing I discuss, and it does hurt a bit when I get eye rolls or can see friends check out of the conversation when there is something philosophical that I'd like to discuss. I understand that it is partially because many don't enjoy getting philosophical, and these days attention spans are sparse, and small talk gets smaller and smaller. But I feel anyone can agree that it stings a bit to be passively dismissed, unless, of course, justifiably. I see that both of you care for me, and I also care for each of you, as much as I care about everyone and everything to a level. This is a study behind the why of that and then the results of. Both of you are right, but not 100% correct, and you are both reaching closer or not because you care or not, and we influence each other. Either these things begin to make sense, or you stick around to see what is eventually revealed to be as truth, or you stop caring, but you still have been influenced by the event. I understand the possibility that I could appear as manic, but I am very calm and collected. It's just exciting when the things you have been working up towards are becoming fruition, and you have the research, experience, collective data, and proofs behind it, not just my own, but everyone and everything. And if I don't yet, then I can find more info from you, a library, or the internet, and everyone and everything on it. Just like you once could find information in a library, or our libraries have become the internet, and each other. And to my belief, we are expanding to the next evolution of library data storage and connection. No one could do that in the past at our level when entering this type of study, but because they did it is now easier to do so, but also still comparatively difficult as you have to cover a lot of information, all of existence and beyond it. It is very difficult to analyze and summarize something that is expanding faster than we can currently perceive. Tuesday, December 10th, 2019 continued. Sean Penalver. If I were speaking Espanol right now, a lot of you would have no idea what I was saying, though some of you might or would and would get bits and pieces if they understood a few words. And that way I am speaking a form of Spanglish or mixture of languages of text, sounds, being, and beyond until I can properly speak and you can properly understand 100% well in Espanol and 100% in English, or whatever language this eventually could be translated into, whether I or you were to eventually learn that language or filter it through a translator, human or technology, either at this current point or some point in the future. All languages are constantly expanding and changing. If we spoke our personal forms of language to someone from the 1400s, they would probably have a bit of difficulty understanding what you're saying or how you're appearing. unless these hypothetical beings attempted to teach each other how to correctly communicate with each other, if they can even get to that point and hopefully not result in violence. For instance, if a hypothetical future conscious antelope grew to live in harmony with future conscious lions in a time or space traveling antelope were to come across a form of lion before that point, say a wild jungle lion from 1900s or even a lion from its same future time, just distant location and relation, it's probably going to be a bit difficult to say. Don't eat me. I know your great 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 grandfather. We work together. Even if I, as a stranger or friend, were to say the same sentence to you yourself, you'd still be a bit confused by it. How would you even say hello to another being from a distant galaxy, let alone attempt to translate this information to it? I am trying to translate this experience or information, learning, and connection to you so that we can potentially be able to faster connect with each other and everything within and without the funk, perhaps even before or after it, but most importantly, during.
And again, as we've talked about before, but again, trying to bring in people who might just be tuning in. Uh, the way that language evolves and the secrets that mistranslation kind of prevent us from reaching and stuff. And so what I'm getting at here is if I was speaking in a completely different language that no one even knew, then it's going to kind of, yeah, it's going to appear weird or even maybe manic or something like that. You don't know what another uh, being or alien is saying, like in this language. And so they might appear to be wild or crazy, but really they're just trying to translate. And you don't know because y'all can't understand each other. Um, and so what I'm kind of getting at here is like when you're in that situation of mistranslation, whether it is a completely different language or even if it's the same language, like we're both speaking English here. But when you're reading something that's dense or challenging, like this writing, for example, or even other philosophy. Like if you're trying to read Kant, for example, even like when I read Kant, it's every page, every paragraph is just like, what? It's like I have to sit there and process it for like an hour. Um, and I'm being facetious there, but I'm hoping you understand to a degree of that what I mean. And so when you're in these moments, you either take the time to try to understand it, or you just dismiss it, and you'd be like, nope, I don't need this. Uh, and there's different ways of doing that. There's positive and negative ways on dismissing it or acknowledging it. It's a whole spectrum of everything of how we respond. And so again, that's another example of parability is trying to do that in a constructive way. But we each have our own limits and we each have our own boundaries. And so I still, this is all a suggestion, an invitation to, if you are willing and wanting to expand this information, I'm welcoming you to do that. Um, this is not a, you have to follow this information. This is not a, you have to attend a service every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or something like that. Um, it is when you are ready. It is here for you to engage with in whatever way that you are able, and then we will learn from that just by you being and doing. Um, but that's hard for some to do because even in our own language, I mean, I understand to a degree the things I'm saying here. There's some moments where I'll lose my own translations, uh, but that's why it keeps evolving, and I keep these examples in there uh, as kind of placeholders. So maybe I will further understand what I meant later. Now that's rare. That's not all over the treatise, but that's just kind of an example. Um, but then, even if, even though I am attempting to make myself clearer and clearer, which is difficult, that still needs external help. I still need peer review and challenges. I need defeaters. I need people going through this information and being like, I don't get that. And then I need Okay, so let's work together to where both of us understand that. And then if I show it to a third person to see if they understand clearer or not, and then, we expand that and we try to become more clear. But even with that, no matter how clear I get, there's usually going to be at least one person who just does not understand. Because maybe uh, it's a spectrum of things. Maybe they can't read. Maybe they speak another language. Um, or maybe there's just some words that they don't understand yet. And so that's why I extend this invitation to you or anyone to basically uh, respond in the ways they do, understand it or not, rather than just be like, I'm concerned for you. Which, okay, maybe you're concerned for me. How are you concerned for me? Let's dive in deeper. What are the things that I'm saying that concerns you? Share your feelings and everything, which Kindle kind of did. But I would like to just go a little bit deeper. Um, and I think that kind of explains most of that. Let's continue.
I am personally interested in studying and learning that communication and how to communicate better. I see that I still need work, and I promise you that is what I am attempting to do. I am working hard so that everyone can even attempt to understand, and it is a very difficult thing to do with such a broad and heavy topic to discuss. But with the influence of technology in each other, it is becoming easier and easier to do so. I hear y'all that I don't make complete sense, so bear with me until I am able to do so more clearly. Give it time. All of you are helping me reach that goal. Sean Penalver. Additionally, none of you can sense my tone because you are reading text, so you are assuming my tone based off of what you believe it to be. And that's probably even more difficult if it's not even in your language, culture, or time. I'll never truly know how these words translate to whomever or whatever is reading or hearing this, translated or not. But currently, this is the best way I know how. And even if these ideas were to be presented audibly and visually in person, it would still be interpreted how you or any other interpreter would interpret it. So it is still important to write about and attempt to communicate through text, because that is how we currently most efficiently do so on the internet, in books or mobile textual information. Sean Penalver. Consider what is happening right now with the duct tape banana art. Art at some point was influenced to be created. Art kept happening until someone taped a banana on a wall and sold it for hundreds of thousands of dollars. Then someone ate the banana. Now Popeyes taped a chicken sandwich to the wall. A child draws the event and it goes viral. So on and so forth from this point in our time and experience. The influence and expansion is in effect at a more exponential speed because of the internet, and it will be forgotten and then remembered at various wavelengths and times. Sean Penalver. You know how on the internet ads are designed to be targeted toward you and your interests. I speculate that life and energy within the funk does the same thing. Malregression. And right
That was a decent pronunciation. Malregression, but malregression also works.
now, the algorithms and programs learning from that influence of all time and space are suggesting to your quantum being what your subatomic collected self should do in the present time within, and together reacting with space, time, and being to next influence the future, based off of the data experienced and collected from the past and every plank, or caravanialistic digit of time that these algorithms are expanding, contracting, advancing, losing, progress, multiplying, dividing, etc.
And so for, again, people just turning in now, for this, malregression is the attraction from one event in time to the next realized event in time. It can lead you through all these potentialities and everything that we may or may not ever experience, but it's from the dinosaurs to now, as an example, right? Everything had to happen in the way that it did for us to reach this moment right here. And that's malregression. Caravania is basically the frames of reality and how they fall into each other. It is reality building a fortress of itself or falling into each next truth. Just like how animation is frame by frame by frame by frame, we are moving through reality in a way like that. Caravania. Um, and so everything and anything happens, and it's led to these moments, and each of us and everything is having an influence on the next frames, and it's happening at the speed of being, of creation, of funk. Um, that I think I've said everything I need to say there, but let's continue.
Funk is feeding itself with information, being experience, space, and time, just as you feed yourself food or information to keep yourself alive until you are dead and your physical body decays and returns to the atomic structure of the universe, until even the last core being of energy decays into wherever energy goes. You'll have been a present, resulting influence of the events leading up to existence to that point. Perhaps these algorithms will even understand what happens after the point of non-existence within space and time. The funk will still be there, and you had a significant Malevian effect.
Maylivian, and Maylivian is basically a description of kind of human life.
On how it now is, will be, and was. That is what makes you as an individual so special, because you attribute to the all, so the all can even attempt to provide back to you and itself forever, forwards and backwards and outwards beyond time and space. Sean Penalber. Any more questions, comments, concerns? Please share them, or don't. You be you. Thank you for your current, past, or any future help and attributions. Your choice to do or to not do, and how that influences the realities around us / it, is a slice of what I am attempting to present. Does that make more or less sense?
And so do you, whoever's watching, listening. Uh, does that make more or less sense? Do you have any questions, comments, concerns? And please share them. Or don't. It's up to you. But thank you for at least being here. Or thank you for, even if you're not here, for everyone not watching this video. Thanks for existing.
Thursday, June 2nd, 2020.
He may have read this or not, but it says hello if you're coming from page 117. This is another part where I present that you might be skipping through the treatise in different sections, and you're more than welcome to do that and go into different places and everything. It'll all continue to make more sense.
22. You can see from the last several pages how some reacted to all of this information back in 2019 when I was first beginning to document these phenomena and theories. It was so much information that I was compiling together and presenting, and that I had a lesser grasp of understanding and or communicating, that when I attempted to discuss it, you can literally see how some wanted to dismiss it as manic and checked out there. Personally, I knew and still know myself to not have been in any state to be concerned about, and it was honestly a bit frustrating to experience, but it taught me a lot on how to better present and communicate this information. It was only less than a handful of people who responded this way, and what kept me going is all of the other people beyond and or within this document that were willing to hear and discuss more, and give their thoughts and opinions beyond "this is too much for me" or "you seem manic." These days, now that I've had more time to summarize such a broad explanation into a more digestible proposal, and have reached further understanding personally and socially, I see the difference in engagement versus dismissal. And what you've read above have been the only times I've ever been alleged to be manic, at least to my knowledge. Most people can confirm that they, in their own way, understand or comprehend what I am suggesting to you. But like I stated above, whether I am or was manic to any degree or level or not, this is the information I have for you, and it is up to you on how you accept / deny or respond to it. So even if you think I or this information to be crazy, I at least hope you are willing to consider it as speculation. March 19th, 2023. And consider, as I touched on much earlier in this treatise, that Even though there is balance and the negative often appears to outweigh the positive, as no missions are sometimes louder than we missions. You are more likely to be noticeably insulted by current society than assisted, as most agreement is passive. Take every comment section on the internet as example. Wednesday, December 11th, 2019. Sean Penalber, an introduction into the dissection and explanation of the funk. Link to a YouTube video. September 16th, 2020.
It says in the the 7th edition, that link is now dead, but you can still listen to it as a part of the Want versus Need album as the last track.
Or with improvised music accompaniment. Who'da Thunk, an intro into the ontological dissection and explanation of the funk. Here it is, friends. Give it a listen if you want, and feel free to share it or not. Love you. Let me know what you think, as your opinions about it are extremely important. Whatever reaction you have to it is extremely helpful. Even if you just think me to be crazy, tell me why you think so.
And so again, this is another example. When you listen to this, if you listen to it, you can see the passion that I was having, and definitely, in my own opinion, it can seem manic, and I can hear that in my voice of trying to get this thing. The biggest one that stands out to me is at one point, I'm like, I need y'all to confirm, and I wasn't demanding a confirmation like I need you to say yes, but I was trying to express that, like, does this make sense? Yes or no? Again, it wasn't a forceful, like, say yes right now, which is kind of how it sounds. But it was not that. It was just, again, passion of that, like, these things are connecting together, and I'm making a little bit more sense of it at every moment. So whether you listen to it or not, I'd also love to hear your thoughts on that as well. But again, just keep in mind that, just as I've stated before and all these things, and as you're seeing here, it was in its very early stages. And so it's going to appear in a different way. And if you dismiss that, then you're not going to want to dive in deeper now that the explanations are a little larger and more thought out and everything. But it is still there. I'm not going to delete it or dismiss it because it was a part of this being, as cringe as I may find some parts of it to be. But that's just a part of learning. A lot of us can relate to that. And I've said this multiple times throughout this treatise, that when you look back at your past self, at your past yaw, sometimes it's cringe, right? You just didn't know. You weren't aware yet. You weren't who you are now. And you just get that feeling of like, man, if only I had known, you know? Is that if only I had known. But it would be completely different.
I am now sending this dissertation and intro video to Frederick Knudsen, a documentarian of events on the internet and more, and I enjoy his work. I am requesting that he follows the results of this now increasingly building of events and connections. We'll see if he does or not. Hello, Frederick. Link to a YouTube video channel. June 12th, 2022. Within this collective experience of funk observation, there is something that I have been discussing and have read others describing about the strong internal funk feeling or impulse to reach out to another person or to go to a certain location or to do a certain thing. It's quite powerful. I would think we all feel it. I would even go so far as to suggest that it is the guided, influential feeling of an almost predetermined or calculated form of will. I would describe this feeling like an internal ethereal magnet pulling me, you, us towards something. You experience it within every action you make, e.g., I'm going to put this here, or I'm going to go to the store now, or something tells me I'm going to need this later. But there are moments where it is very pervading towards a specific thing or person, and it seems that when that connection is eventually reached, something clicks or results in a significant development. This is not to be confused with synchronicity, which, for example, where someone comes to mind or you think of someone and suddenly they call you or show up to where you are, etc. Or when you learn something and suddenly it unrelatedly appears again in conversation or activity, and you're like, wow, I just learned about that, and here it is again. What are the odds?
And that's kind of the frequency illusion that we've been discussing as well.
But instead, conceptually, a synchronicious like feeling of funk, attraction, or influence to future present funk. As a personal example, recently I had a funk feeling to reach out to a friend I hadn't spoken to in a while, and in doing so, it led me to some connections that I was currently working on by happenstance. I'll provide a better example the next time it personally happens. And that is the end of my selection of pages.
I'll finish that thought so that it connects. And so the concept of this feeling I'm going to neologize as quantum malleoregression, as it is like the allure of a quantum magnet pulling me and us to write these words of this very treatise in the attempt of sharing this information with the collective funk. I postulate humans as holarchical entities, and even funk itself is and are malleoregnetically linked to caravanial influence. We are prediction machines, after all, and could be evolving this sense further and further, some to feel it and some not, but all to have it. May 25th, 2024. Malleoregression leads, pulls, guides, directs us and everything into synchronicities and beyond. It brought us here through our moments and timelines of Caravania, to you reading these words now and everything else that happens beyond. All right, now let's hear Jeffrey's thoughts.
I am currently reading through this work, and I am earlier on, whereas my selection was later on. And I currently have a limited understanding of the full picture, but I will start from the beginning of my selection with my feelings, thoughts, gut reactions.
Jeff, if you did finish the treatise or however far you got, I would love to hear your thoughts on what you read.
Immediately, we're talking about whether or not this is a manic episode. And, I am not qualified to judge that sort of thing. I can go off of my gut. I think that whether or not it is a manic episode, I would have to have more information. But I also believe that what a manic episode is, again, I'm not a professional, but my limited understanding is it is someone trying to rise to the energy, I guess, that they are feeling in their mind. So, again, I'm ignorant to a lot of ways you might describe this. You mentioned something that really resonated with me. You said that we are in a moment where there is just more information, and I'm paraphrasing, but we are in a moment where it is possible to learn more about the past than ever before because of emergent technologies. Mm-hmm. And I think there have always been people, philosophers and scholars who are very hungry for information and will seek it out in places like libraries. But it is truly just more free-flowing than ever before. And so I do think we sit in a unique place to be able to look back and observe it all and make sense of it. So while my spirituality is different from this, I can see similarities between things that I believe. I like to think about a work of fiction that I consider to be a strong model for the human experience and spirituality. And it's
Pause because my train of thought here. And this is kind of the point right here of like he's Jeffrey's saying that he doesn't really share the same spirituality of these agreements and everything, and that's important that uh, we are able to see these things and relate them some ways. And yes, we may disagree and everything, but how we share that information evolves it, and it is not my intention to change your mind. But if in effect, uh, if I'm if this information evolves and puts you in a position where you change your own mind, then that's a completely different story. Because again, I'm just inviting you to engage in this discourse. I'm not saying that you have to be something different. You need to evolve. You need to do these things. But again, just as I've proposed throughout this whole treatise, when you attempt pairability, we see how it constructively leads us in directions rather than when we don't or are adverse to that or averse to that. Um, and so I appreciate how he's sharing that relation and everything while standing his ground. That's how each of us do.
An anime. It's called Neon Genesis
I'm gonna
Evangelion.
go
I
back a little bit.
like to think about a work of fiction that I consider to be a strong model for the human experience and spirituality. And it's an anime. It's called Neon Genesis Evangelion. It is largely about the things that keep us from being able to communicate with each other, and people who need connection, different attachment styles, people who can't connect with others and push people away. I think that it's also very similar to the funk in that we are all one being, right? But we are separate, and that is the reason for pain. We are. It's this illusion that we're a different being, but we are the same. Where I am, I struggle to know if I believe that literally. I don't know that I care to understand whether or not it literally is that we are different, the same being. I don't know if that matters. I think to me what matters is what you can do by thinking that way. Sean, we met at Station Theater, and the reason that we met there is because you and I both at some point sought out a place to perform, and at that moment, the way I would understand it, with my kind of patchwork of different woo-woo spiritualities, is I would say that we were vibrating, right, in a similar frequency, where we ended up with a lot of people who wanted the same thing. And I'm familiar with the law of attraction and that sort of thing, and that seems to be an aspect of your model.
Correct. An aspect of, not the entire thing. And so I see Jeffrey understanding.
One thought that I had is when you mentioned to Kindle, you said that you wanted to make sure that you were explaining it as well as you could, and that you would get better at it. And I think that when you're discussing these, big concepts, like the underlying forces of our universe that we don't yet understand, I think that it is hard to be brief. But I think, unfortunately, brevity is the key to understanding. And
Partially, yeah.
as I read through this, I think there were some things that were confusing to me. And I haven't read all of it yet, which might be why. But also there were some words that I saw that I thought, I don't know what that word is. And I think, if there is an alternative there, I think also, text is totally one way to express something, but I think better than a lot of people that you can also express ideas musically, like you do, or in any art form. And I think sometimes that can be a more clear way to get the message to people. I think about that a lot, like with a lot of religions that exist. I think that really what they're doing is they're putting it in a way that is digestible. We can set easy rules, and I don't know. This isn't a religion necessarily, as far as I know. But what this is it's definitely spirituality and a framework and a potential for furthering human connection in the same way. I think that the truth is, regarding the manic aspect of this, we have to rest, and as long as you are taking care of your body, I think you are welcome. And hell, welcome. You're welcome to do whatever you want. No one can make you even be well, But because we care about you, I think just we, the people that care about you, want to know that you are taking care of your health. And when you see something that does look manic, it can just be alarming. I think ultimately, as far as getting the message out,
And so that's why now the burden of proof is on me to do that, to show that I am well, that I am taking care of myself and everything. And so I hope that at this point in time, people understand that. But that's always going to be a challenge, and I will continue to attempt to live up to that responsibility and accountability
to people, you're what you've learned. I think you might end up having to accept that a lot of people, and maybe you already have, that a lot of people are not going to ever want to introspect in that way. I think that a lot of people's experience with unwell people can make them hesitant to approach something that they think resembles manic behavior. I think that if this resembles manic behavior, it is either because it is a little bit manic, which isn't, it's a human thing to be manic. I don't have any fancy diagnoses, but I certainly experience manic moments. I used to forego sleep to stockpile, comedy movies, and just so I would be an encyclopedia. And it wasn't healthy, but I am also who I am because of it. And so like I don't, it is what it is, right? It's all a part of it. So I can totally get behind that sort of idea, that it is all a part of it. It's the little, it's the cough at the symphony, that's part of the whole experience. I think.
so. In that argument here, then okay, I'll submit a little bit. Maybe there is some mania to this. And again, I have already kind of stated that agreement, that I'm not dismissing it. But I see what you're saying, Jeff.
That reading these pages definitely has me interested in your broader message. I am concerned that maybe there will be parts that I don't quite understand, probably because, they make a lot of sense to you because, they're your ideas. Sometimes I will try to explain something and it is very clear up here, and it's just not coming out exactly the way I planned. So yeah, I don't know. I think that over time, if you can whittle this down to less and less words, you will probably achieve your goal of communicating it to more people. I think it's also true that some people are not going to be able to distinguish this from an actual manic episode. I mean, why would they? You know, they're not qualified to do so. But also, you know, when you smell it, you get worried, and I think you already know that that's just someone caring about you.
Mm-hmm. And that's it. Well, once again, Jeffrey, thank you for reading and sharing your thoughts and everything. Uh, yeah, I understand exactly that these things are going to happen, and that is kind of the challenge and kind of the goal is to continue within this, even if as absurd that might be, even as manic as that appears, even as crazy as that challenge might be. Someone's got to, or no one will, you know. And so I'm going to continue attempting this approach and attempting this pairability and attempting this next step of level of communication to where maybe, just maybe, we can, that could be a possibility in the future to where uh, that we just do understand each other rather than like we live in this world where it's harder to do so. But if we all, do 1%, then we'll just get that much closer to being able to do so. But just as you said, not everyone's going to be able to do that. Not everyone's going to want to be able to do that. Nor does everyone need exactly to do that. This is, again, my suggestion and invitation based on theory uh, of how I see things working and not working. And then we share that information and it evolves. And so I think that's basically it on pages, what is this, 100? No, 100. We're out of that. 211. Yeah, 211 through 220. Um, and so again, Jeffrey Anderson, thank you for reading. Thank you for sharing your thoughts. Thank you, watcher, listener, reader, for being here, for existing, for doing what you do, for verbing anything. I love you. And in case I don't see you, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. Um, and as always, the funk provides. So, peace out, y'all.